Oh, all right. Woohoo.
We're official.
All right. Well, everybody that hasn't been officially introduced to Michelle, this is Michelle Cohen. Um, I'm so grateful that you're all here, and I'm so grateful, especially to you, Michelle, for doing this. We haven't known each other that long. We met through a mutual friend. Michelle was just talking about how she likes to go to events of different kinds all the time about people speaking about things, and that's how we met. Is she went to an event that my friend was also at, and that's my friend Stacy who wants to come tonight. She may jump on a little bit late. And she put us in touch because she knew that this is the kind of thing I'm super interested in, and the rest is history. So,
Yeah.
well, I had my first reading with Michelle a couple of nights ago. It was absolutely wonderful. So I'm just really delighted that she's here. Oh, Annette, welcome, Annette. I see you just came on, another friend from the Power of Eight group. So nice to see you. Okay, so I'm going to start, and if people come a little late, they will catch up on the recording. Is that good? Michelle, can you say something? I'm not sure I could hear you just now.
Oh, yes. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
there we go. Okay,
And
very good.
unfortunately, you may be hearing sirens since I'm in the middle of New York City, but welcome to our world.
That's okay. So I'm just going to give a little official introduction to Michelle. And let me tell you that this is cut down from the longer version. This woman does so many different things, has so many different facets to her. So just know this is the pared down version, but I really wanted to share a lot of it because it is also interesting to me what she does. Michelle Cohen is a writer, producer, director, performer, and intuitive whose work has been featured on CNN, Good Morning America, NPR's All Things Considered, MTV, People Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, The Washington Post, and more. A lifelong performer whose career began on stage in childhood, Michelle has appeared in over 50 musicals and plays, performed in hundreds of concerts and cabaret shows, and taught voice and performance for decades. Blending storytelling, creativity, intuition, and entertainment, Michelle has spent her career helping people reconnect with themselves. In the trunk. Mm-mm, it's
Here.
there. Sorry, I missed what someone said. Said everything okay? I'll
Just
start
make
again.
sure that they're on mute.
Oh, thank you. I forgot. See, I always forget something. Before I go on again, too, I just want to say I'm appearing with my face kind of cut down the middle, and I don't know, is that how it's going to get recorded? Okay, great. That's how I see it. So I just wanted to check on that. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to start back a little. Blending storytelling, creativity, intuition, and entertainment. Michelle has spent her career helping people reconnect with themselves, their voice, and their inner guidance. Michelle produced the off-Broadway hit Schoolhouse Rock Live and directed the award-winning one-woman show Toasted. She's also the creator of Tune In, a fiction podcast blending comedy, intuition, and emotional transformation. And I am very excited about that one. That is right up my alley. Her published works include The Intuition Toolkit, which I am reading right now, and it's wonderful. Of Course You Can Sing. Actually, there is something under the bed, and Menopop, the menopause pop-up and activity book. Michelle has served as adjunct faculty at NYU, guest lectured for UCLA's MFA acting program, and developed workshops for actors, singers,
Could you
entrepreneurs,
could you go on?
seekers, and creatives around the world. Does somebody have their not have their mute on? I thought I heard a little something. Okay. In addition to her creative work, Michelle has conducted thousands of intuitive sessions over the course of her career. Known for her warmth, humor, accuracy, and grounded approach, she helps people navigate uncertainty, unlock clarity, and reconnect to parts of themselves they may have forgotten. A graduate of Sarah Lawrence College and the British American Drama Academy, Michelle believes transformation works best when it includes imagination, compassion, laughter, and a little bit of magic. I love that, Michelle. Welcome to my soul salon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anne, and thank you everybody else for popping in on this evening. I'm thrilled to be here. It's so much fun for me.
Thank you. I am too. I have not done these for a while for a variety of reasons, and I'm really happy to be back at it. So I think I'd like to start off with the question that I always ask my guests, which is when did you first discover your intuitive gifts, your metaphysical or spiritual gifts, and how did that happen? And like, were you raised with a family that had any sort of religious or spiritual beliefs? And what did they think about yours when it happened? I'll roll all that into one question.
Okay. Whoosh. Yeah, I did not grow up in a family that knew anything about this stuff, even slightly. So I we grew up in a Reformed Jewish tradition and very actively. My cousin is one of the first. Oh, I think I was getting a little feedback.
Yeah. Does everyone have their mute on? Please
It
make sure that you have it on.
looks like M's phone doesn't have her mute on. M, do you see that?
Let's see who that is. A few people have joined. It's not Monica. She's got hers. Sorry. Eve, I don't think you're muted, Eve.
It says
Does it say mute?
mute.
There we go. Yay.
Okay. And everybody else, if you would just check to make sure if you're not that familiar with Zoom, I think it's on the bottom. Is it not the mute?
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm not that good. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds like we're
Okay,
good
great.
now. So I actually, one of my female cousins was one of the first female rabbis ever. And she actually lived with us for a year while she was training back in the day. So I had a really, traditional thirst and love for what I love about that tradition is that it's very much about asking questions. It's very much about, wondering what's life about. And ultimately, as I fell more into my spiritual world, I decided organized religion for me personally didn't make as much sense. It didn't answer all the questions for me that I needed answered. So that was my background, but it's not necessarily the tradition that I still keep up with these days. In terms of my magic, I
Yes.
had zero idea that other people weren't seeing the things that I was seeing, weren't completely empathic the way I was empathic. I just figured it was everybody's experience. I didn't think it was strange or odd until I started noticing that no one else was noticing what I was. I could tell somebody was lying, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking, why are you saying yes? They're lying. Or my dad said when I was like 5 years old, I went to the kindergarten teacher and said, it's okay, we understand. I was just like preternaturally aware. And it took me a long time to figure out that there was actually these extra sensory abilities that I had. Part of it is it got funneled into performing. I started performing by the age of 6. And so I played a lot of characters and I got a lot of training. So a lot, I think, of the extra awareness was diffused through being on stage and singing and playing other people. But it wasn't until in my 20s when I was kind of moving along, doing my thing. I was working my way onto Broadway as a performer. I had a production company as a producer and director, and things were going great. And I took to my bed. I didn't want to get out of it for no apparent reason. And what I now know happened was basically any ability that I had to come out. It couldn't be suppressed anymore. And so I had what's called a psychic break. And what happens at that point is it's like, anything you've been holding on to that needs to be expressed starts to be expressed. And luckily, I had a friend at the time who actually did grow up in this world. We used to joke. She'd be like, aren't ghosts amazing? I'm like, no, they're scary. What's wrong with you? And that was kind of the perfect description of our two awarenesses. But she took one look at me and said, we have to get you under control. We have to get you starting to learn about your abilities. So it really wasn't until my 20s that I started exploring and starting to discover that I had a whole bunch of clairs, as they call them, clairvoyance, clairaudient, clairsentient. And it's taken me a lot of years to sort through all of them and figure out, what are my original abilities versus what kind of came along the way. In terms of my folks, when I first was like, hey, I'm hearing voices, they were a little uncomfortable, to say the least.
Sorry to interrupt you, but did you see beings also? Like, did you see dead people or did you have imaginary imaginary friends that you
Yeah.
saw?
It's funny. I was always talking out loud to anyone and everything, and I just assumed I was being heard. Now I know I was. Yeah, I have the ability to not just like I'll receive oral information, and it isn't just like, oh, an idea. It's a full conversation I can have, which we'll show later as we're talking with my crew, as I call it. I also can physically see anything around me. It used to be I couldn't tell the difference between a person who was not alive versus a person who was dead. Like I'd be
Oh,
walking
wow.
the street and going like this, and
Wow.
everyone's like, "What's your problem?" Because I was seeing someone come near me, and I couldn't tell that they were actually going to go right through me. So I've asked for that to be toned down a little bit. We can, once you get more savvy with your abilities, you can start adjusting them because it's your life, it's your body. If something's happening that you're not comfortable with, you actually have a say. So I just kept saying, look, I'm okay with the fact that I can sense all of these beings. I'd rather not physically see them. Can you just show them in my mind's eye? So now it's sort of like a movie. So I can
Oh,
see
wow.
them, but I'm not ducking as they
So
come near.
when you see them, they're like a flesh and blood looking being. It's not
Yeah.
transparent. It's not discernibly different from seeing one of us.
Right. And that
Wow.
was the part that was again, I didn't realize other people didn't have that experience. It took me a long time to understand that I was, one of a fewer amount having that experience on a continual basis. I've now since met other people obviously who do, but when you're growing up on Long Island, in a very suburban kind of world, it's not traditional. It's not your normal. Although what's funny is a very well-known medium now we went to the same high school. We grew up together. She's a little younger than me, so I knew her older sister. But it wasn't until she wrote a book and I'm reading and I'm like, oh my God, I had the same English teacher. So it's just really cool that we think there was something in the water where we came from. Because you have two psychics from the same
That's
place.
pretty funny. So
Yeah.
there's no one else in your family that you know of in the history of your family, or do you know of
Well, it's interesting. My sister is an animal whisperer. She definitely can talk to animals and she's very aware. My brother says, I don't want to talk about it. So
oh, wow.
sure, something is going on there, but I completely respect. He's a bit more of a right mind mental space. So I think he does explore the more energetic, esoteric world, but he doesn't want to be as free flow about it. My mom, it seems she has prophetic dreams. That seems to be her deal. My dad doesn't seem to be. I think he's sort of naturally tapped in, but he wouldn't admit to that being an experience for him. So we're a pretty open family. I'm very lucky and I'm well aware of this. I have a family that's still a whole, like it's the same family. We don't have extra names afterwards. My folks have known each other since they were 15 and 17, and they're still
Wow.
together in their 80s, and love each other. I mean, it's an amazing full circle loving family. And I do think there's something about growing up with tremendous support and tremendous safety that gave each of us the ability and the again the safety to explore things that are not necessarily the norm. So I think that's part of why particularly my sister and I were able to open up more to it because we were comfortable in our skins, we were comfortable in our lives, and that helps.
I have heard that from I've interviewed a lot of intuitives when I was working on that first book, and I asked often about do they think it's something genetic? And mostly what they said to me, some said, well, they all said everyone has it, but it's different degrees and you can develop it. They all agreed to that. But when people are just really got it, like do it for a living, what you have, they said usually it's either they've done it in a past life or it was not shut down in them by their
Mhm.
family. Like it was encouraged by their family or accepted or a family that was very open. And that the reason a lot of people don't develop it is because it's just really, they're told it's your imagination or stop talking about that crazy stuff or something like that. So I bet that is true. Um,
Yeah, it's from what I understand, up until the age of about 2 or 3, we still remember not being here or our past lives. Like I have a
yeah.
lot of friends, they'll say, oh my God, my kid just looked at me and started laughing, going, I remember when I was your mommy? And it's like,
Yes.
whoosh. And
Yeah.
tons of data and tons of it's an amazing rabbit hole to go down if you're interested, of all these little kids really truly remembering at least their most immediate past life. What happens though, because if they don't have a parent or parents who are encouraging it, it starts getting shut down. So when little ones talk about their imaginary friend, 9 times out of 10, not so imaginary. They're actually having a conversation with their guides or with, a loved one who'd passed, and just don't yet know that to tell the difference. It's kind of like, for me, it went much longer than age 3. I couldn't tell the difference. So I think if more people were aligned with the reality of us being able to be that open from an earlier stage, I think many more people would have developed their abilities earlier, as opposed to nowadays, everyone's like, oh, I wish I was intuitive. Of course you are. It's just a question of, you need to now work the muscle, at an older age instead of when it was still pretty supple.
Right, right. You mentioned your team, or your I forget what you called them. What did you call
My
them?
crew, my
Your
posse.
crew. Your crew. So I know on your website, and I think you said this to me also when we talked, that you could call them, and it's actually on your website. It says, my work can be considered conversing with the universe, source, spirit guides, angels, entities, higher self, or a really loud voice that can assist. I don't personally think it matters who I commune with or where the info is coming from, as long as it's accurate, useful, and propels you forward in positive ways, which I love. But I gotta say, if it was me, I'd really want to know, like, who am I talking to? Who am I connecting with? I mean, I know it's all labels that we put onto different energies. Like all the beings say, you're the ones that have to call it an angel versus a guide versus a this. But have you ever just asked them, like, who are you? And if so, what did they tell you?
Yeah, I mean, here's what's really interesting. Of course, especially when you're starting, absolutely ask, because you also want to make sure you're working with, the highest good, people who love you. If you're not quite sure how it's working, you could accidentally be pulling in a lesser, I call it a lower conscious being who doesn't necessarily have your best interests at heart. So particularly when you're first experimenting and getting used to suddenly having extra voices or extra ideas coming at you, absolutely check in. Absolutely be like, who are you? What's going on? And the thing I would say, ask if they love you. The second
Ah,
there's love organized and you feel the love, or so, and of course, or you say you love them, then it's an entity that's for your highest good. If you say I love you to something that's lower conscious, it's like, it literally leaves. It's kind of cool. So unless it's a really entrenched something that needs an exorcism, you can actually get away with just sending love to something, and you will be so much more protected. But more to your question, I'm very clear. Like, I have a very specific kind of inner posse, inner crew of guides, a guardian angel, different types of people that I have as sort of my main posse, if you will, my main group. And then different entities come in depending on if I'm working with someone, like people come in for them, or depending, like, you can have an entity that's for health. You can have an entity that's for your boyfriend. That's an entity for what to eat today. Like, there's no limit to who can come in. So for me, because I have the ability to just talk to whomever, I don't always check in. I'll just be like, okay, what do I need? And I know I'll get a proper response. But I also did set up, it's sort of like the airport safety security, you walk through security. And
mm-hmm.
so what I've set up for me as an initial protection is anyone who wants to actually talk to me has to go through that security. So that automatically means that they if they made it through, then I'm cool. I'm totally fine to talk to them. So for me, it was more a question because I have so many. I mean, most people simply have a couple people to chat with. I have so many. I needed to set up kind of this like this system so that I felt safe. I'm able to say everybody's Shah. So I can have a minute to just not listen to everybody talking to me and just hear me and hear my voice and what I think about something. Because I'm a pretty constant channel. So I'm always receiving advice or guidance or thoughts. And so I needed to also come up with a way so that, I can still just be me. Like, I'm talking to all of you right now. If I start tuning in, I'll start getting tons of information about everybody. I am very lucky. I have the ability to be like, whoop, tone it all down. I'm just talking to you guys like me. And once in a while, I may get a little whisper about something, but in general, I'm not everyone has this who has these abilities. They can't shut it off. I'm very lucky that it's like a radio for me. I can either put it on really sharp and it comes in crystal clear, or I can turn it down and it gets a little staticky, so I can actually function like a quote unquote normal human.
Normal.
Quote around that.
I was going to ask you about that because I have heard people talk about how they had to learn to shut things out. Like my friend Patricia, who's in my book, Patricia Masters, who was my first psychic, who was wonderful. She said that like in her teenage years or 20s, like she was in Manhattan, she would walk down the street and it was just all coming at her and it was making her crazy. And it was difficult for her to learn how to tune that out.
Yeah.
So,
So, like I said, once you start recognizing what you can and can't do, that's where you start the negotiation. You say, hi, I'm in the body. Here's what's really not interesting for me anymore. I really don't want to have this versus, wow, this is really fun for me. Let's pull that up. So I think the thing to always remind people is everyone's there as guidance and help, but you're the one who's here in the fully manifested form. So you absolutely have a say and you're all co-creating together. They're not necessarily like omnipotent. Like that took me a long time. I used to think that whatever they said was exactly the only thing that was possible. I didn't realize they were simply a higher consciousness. So they have more awareness, but not all awareness. So you're allowed to, I am like the queen of no, do it again, don't wanna, like people laugh at how kind of confrontational, I mean, in a loving way, but I don't immediately say, okay, let's just do this. Like it is not that for me at all. I'm constantly questioning. I'm constantly say that again, I don't get it, or I'm not interested in that, or I'll be like, I'm in the body, that doesn't sound fun to me at all. And they definitely, and every once in a while I'll say I don't like this anymore, and they'll say give us 24 hours, and they go away and have a little conference and come back with an adjustment. It's really interesting, but I'm sort of known for being, it's not disrespectful at all, but I'm definitely like talk to them like they're buddies. I will curse, I will say dudes as opposed to almighty whatever. I don't downplay that for people, because for some that actually is what connects them. But for me, just making it a conversation with people I'm hanging out with is what connects for me. So it's sometimes weird for people, but it's how I have my fun. It's how I live my life.
and I think, am I correct that you do work with people who are developing their intuitive gifts? So if someone wants to develop theirs more, or they're getting things and they don't really know how to handle it, you do that kind of coaching. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that I've done so many sessions through my life, and so many of them are people saying, I think I'm crazy. I think something's wrong with me. I don't know what to do. Am I having a breakdown? Now, again, once in a while, yes, it is absolutely a mental issue. And I can always tell, and I will immediately say, dial 911. This is a mental breakdown. Please take care of yourself. But 8 times out of 10, almost 9 times out of 10, it's a spiritual awakening. And we don't have Hogwarts. So what happens is they'll come to me, and I will, with deepest love in whatever way I can, help people recognize that for a lot of people on this planet, what they're experiencing is actually normal. And it's actually something you can track. And then I will work individual. I've done workshops, and I'll work individual with people if they want to do it quicker, where we'll start figuring out like, what are your spidey powers? What's your superpowers? Because everyone has abilities, but there's so many different versions of what they are. I always say, notice which of your 5 senses is particularly acute. If you do a lot with sight, you probably are clairvoyant. If you have like an incredible sense of smell, you're probably I always forget that one.
I forget, olfaction or something.
Something, whatever. But you can actually start to get a sense of are you like constantly thinking you're somebody else? Well, you're obviously empathic. Do you see colors around everyone? You see auras. Like you can start to notice what your abilities happen to be, and then you start tuning them up and learning how to work with them. And then the other thing I do, what I've learned is we come in as a foursome. We don't come in as one person. You come in as you, and then with three guides.
I was going to ask you about that. I read
Yeah.
about that on your website. That I have heard this before a couple times, but this
Yeah.
fascinates me. So please, yeah, please talk about
So
that.
you can have guides and entities and whatever it is coming in and out of your life throughout your life. However, these three guides are there from you from birth till death. You came in as an agreement that you'd be the one in the body, and they would be the ones to be helpful if you need, to be of assistance, to be of guidance, but also they're there to just observe. They want to see how you go through your life. They want to, and they're always saying to me, they're like, Michelle, you are like the coolest movie we've ever seen. Because for them, what they want to see in each of us is how we grow, how we make decisions, how we learn to go from reacting to responding. They're utterly fascinated by watching us maneuver in the world. And whenever they can help. So what I'll do is I'll introduce people to their three guides so that they can start getting more information and start working with them. And what's super fun is, like my brother-in-law is, a Reiki master and a military guy. And he's very, he's just this amazing, he's a stunt guy. I mean, just this really, so of course, one of his guides was this like amazing warrior, like that made sense. Of course it would be, or I'll do someone, I'll be like, wow, I think you have a leprechaun. They're like, I've always loved Ireland. Like it always has sort of you feel like you've met your family. It's just this beautiful, it's so much fun for me to like introduce everybody to themselves and to their presence who are with them and love them and are thrilled to be able to communicate. I mean, that's the thing that I like doing when I do sessions. Like I am simply the go-between. It's all about you. It's all about whatever you need, spotlight on you. And me and like bajillion others are here to just answer whatever questions or help you in your journey, whatever you are wondering about. And I also always give everybody back to themselves. Like, I think you actually do know the answers that you're not sure that but you're afraid to either commit to it or believe it or trust yourself. So I'll just be what I call the spotter. It's like, well, let's see, do we both come up with orange? Oh, look, we both did. Yep, then it's orange. So it's just this, it should be a loving connection. It shouldn't be like your guru telling you everything about yourself. Like nobody knows you except you. And what I can do is tap into you as a blueprint, as a higher consciousness. I'll definitely get some stuff that's going on that nobody knows about, but we keep that very private and very, selectively about you. And believe you me, I've seen and heard everything at this point. So it's very hard to surprise me. And what I also would say is I'm starting to see so much over it. Someone will like just burst into tears. Like, I'm the only one going through this. And I'll just think, you have no idea. Everyone around you is going through this at the same time. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, I wish people understood more that, I said under the hood, what's going on under the hood is actually really similar. You may come at it from a different place. I work with people who are like bajillionaires, and then I work with people who are in bankruptcy, and they're actually having the same exact issue. It's just different, different worlds in terms of their surroundings, but it's still the same fears or the same hurts or the same wounds. So to be able to be someone who can just hold the space for someone and serve in whatever way I can, like every time I do this, I'm still fascinated. I'm still thrilled. And I'm also humbled to be able to, be able to help somebody in that way. It's still, everyone laughs at me. I'm like, oh my God, this really cool thing just happened. They're like, Michelle, you've done this a million times. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It was really cool. It doesn't lose its magic for me at all.
One of my questions was, what's the most fun thing about the work that you do? But it sounds like that is introducing people to their guides is one of them, right?
It's endless. I mean, it's so fun to take someone who is like a mess and sobbing, and within an hour, they're just like happy and running around and laughing and like can't wait, and they have a plan. Like That is mind-boggling to me, to take someone who is like on the floor, doesn't think they can see another day, and within that hour they're like, oh my god, I'm so excited. Like it I mean, and I won't leave someone hanging. If it takes an extra 10 minutes, then we'll do the extra 10 minutes. So that's really cool. I still find it weird, the kind of the remote viewing that I can do. One of my favorite stories, a friend who's pretty well known in her arena was on the way to Sedona. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I'm getting that another person who's well known in that arena is also in Sedona. Neither of them are from there. You might want to do a reach out and say hi. And the next day I get a note, Michelle, like, what? You got me in so much trouble. Like, what happened? Ends up the other person hadn't told anybody. She was on like a little private moment in Sedona. Like, how did you know? How did you know I'm here? I was like, oops, sorry about that.
So,
So
just define remote viewing for people here that may not really be familiar with that term.
sure. So remote viewing, and it actually has been deeply a part of our government. There's
Yeah.
like all these remote viewing. It's been going on, gosh, for decades. Basically, it is the ability to, I'm sitting here in New York City in a lovely apartment, but I can actually feel into and see someone in Sedona, like, at a desk typing, and I'm able to tell you where they are, what's going on, what it looks like. But I'm obviously not there. I have no reason to understand what the government would do. Is they would have, they do it in a very systematic way for people who want to learn it as opposed to who have it naturally. And the system is much more specific of, you're not told anything, you have to draw whatever it is that you're seeing in the surrounding. Like, it's a very particular protocol. What's interesting is I recently learned that that's the American version, whereas in Russia, they were a bit more open to, if you also happen to just have the ability, they'd be okay with that, instead of saying, well, now you have to do the strict way, which makes no sense to me. I always said that in an acting class, like, if a scene is working, don't start doing homework on the scene. That scene works. Just use the homework for the scenes that aren't working. It's kind of the same thing in the, the psychic world, that if you have abilities that are amazing, great, use them. Just do the homework on this stuff that's either just still needs a muscle, attending to it, or you're just interested in and want to see if you know how to do it. I mean, that's the other thing. There's so many in my intuition toolkit. At the end, I wrote there's 75 different ways that I know of that I've either dealt with or have to be psychic. Like, I only wrote about what I knew about, and that was 75 just to get started.
Wow.
I mean, it is endless what's possible for everybody. And it's like being in a candy store. I've been doing this for decades, and there's never a day where I'm like, whatever, over it. Like, it's always fascinating, and it's always different, and you're always growing. Even now, I mean, people say, oh, you're such a master at this. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty facile at a lot of things, but there's a lot of stuff I'm still figuring out. I get new suddenly abilities that I didn't know I could have. I think it's an endless candy
It is
store.
really interesting because people tend to put it into like the five clairs or whatever. They simplify it a lot. I have never heard anyone say 75. And I'm sure there's more than that as well.
Well, I mean, there's, because also I also split it into 3 different types. You can be a witch, a wizard, or a sorcerer. And a witch is someone who needs tangible things, like she has the cauldron, they use tarot, they use a pendulum, like something that physically gets them into whatever in state or information that they need. There's something physically there, as opposed to sorcerer, which is what I am, where you just have automatic knowing. Like, when somebody puts a tarot card in my face, I'm like, busy, too much. Like, it's I've already had the information. Why would I be looking at this card? Whereas a witch is like, oh, I see the card, and like all the information starts flooding to that person. And then the wizard is someone who does more, I mean, the research, learns the spells, learns the incantation, and works it from that arena. You can bleed into all of it, but usually people are coming from one of those tracks, at least as an automatic, like, I don't need a physical pendulum, to tell me yes or no, but I actually use the manual alphabet yes and N for no. So my hand is constantly just going, yep, nope, yes. It's like a big yay, do that. Or no, it's like, don't do that. So, that's sort of my version of it. And it's again endless.
Do you do what is the thing people do with their
Oh,
hand or
muscle testing. Yes.
muscles? I couldn't think of the term. Do you
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
as well?
Absolutely. Well, this is sort of my version of muscle testing. So
Okay.
muscle testing, the one that's more the scientific version of it is where you do it with someone else. And what you do is you hold out your arm and like you can use it a lot for food to see if you're allergic to something. Like, say you're holding peanut butter in your hand and someone else will press down on your arm. And if it just falls down, then no. And if it stays firm, that's a yes. And
Right.
so that's a great way, to be able to get your information. Now, I am not always around somebody, so I don't always have someone to push my arm. So another way to do it is basically linking your fingers. Some people flick, but I do a link. So this is a yes and this is a no. So, I mean, what you can do for yourself, just learn it. Just be like, my name is Michelle. Yes. My name is Mary. No. So you just test it with questions that you actually know the answer to so that you see what your yes and no is. Did
Right.
I eat peanut butter today? No. Will I eat peanut butter tomorrow? Ooh, now I learned something. That's fun. So then you start seeing what's yeses and nos. Now, again, if you're like around the world or in the world and you don't want to be doing this in front of your boss or in front of your kids, then you can also do it internally. Just make sure it's happening below your mind, because your mind doesn't always give you the most efficient yes or no. Your mind will give you whatever answer keeps you alive. So whatever you did yesterday that kept you alive to today, they're going to give you that answer because that worked. That makes you really comfortable, your mind. However, once we slot down into our heart space or into our belly space or into our gut, that part of our body doesn't make you feel better just to feel better. It's actually going to tell you what's your truth, what's your aligned truth. So if you want for yourself to find a yes or a no, it can literally be like, yes is an expanded breath, an expanded heart, and a no is literally constriction. So doing the same question, like, is my birthday May 7th? No. Is my birthday April 3rd? Yep, there it is. So you can just start. These are just wonderful. This is my basic showing everybody how they are intuitive. So you can either do it with this, you can do it with a friend, or you can do it with a part of your body. And like I do my Y's and no's because that's just fun for me. And that's your start of having an inner guidance system that's going to tell you things. So after a while, once you start really knowing a really strong yes and a really strong no, then start asking questions that you may not know the answer to, and then see if it was accurate. So if you're like, oh, am I going to eat today at 8 o'clock tonight? And you feel like, no. So when it comes around to 8 o'clock and you haven't eaten, you're like, I was right. Look at that. So you can start experimenting with the larger parts of you that have information that, again, your mind not be receiving so quickly, but our bodies have antenna and they are out there receiving all kinds of information way before even we as a conscious personality know that there's a possibility. That's why people sometimes have a premonition or have a feeling for something. It's because their antenna has gone out and received the information. And a lot of times it's in order to prepare you for something or have you starting to think about it or, whatever the reason. But that's also how we start finding out our future coming that we're walking into.
That's great. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of people that do healing of various sorts that use various types of um, why am I forgetting the term? Again, muscle testing again with what they do. And I did it once with a friend with the arm long time ago when I had first heard about it. And I couldn't really believe how accurate it was. I mean, it really was quite amazing.
We have been given the heart, what is it, the heart end of the sick? Is that the phrase? We have been completely boxed into this idea that this is the only thing that can tell us the truth. We don't understand that it's actually our bodies. Our
Yeah.
bodies are here. They will tell you everything. Again, like I was saying, you may not want to hear what they have to say because, as my crew says, they're like, we will always tell you what you need to know. We will not always tell you what you want to know. And it's the same thing with your body. Your body's going to be accurate and just be like, dude, this is the deal. And listening to it when it's still a whisper, best idea, as opposed to ignoring it and ignoring it until something catastrophic happens in order for you to listen.
Gut feelings, just the idea that your gut knows something, your body has a brain in a way.
Yeah. I mean, actually, supposedly there are brains in our gut.
I've heard that
Um,
too. Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard that
And
too.
again, if you look at any kind of holistic background, or people who are still from the tribe or from the original awarenesses that don't get stuck in our little capitalistic 2 minutes of history, all of this is still there. We're just we're rediscovering, we're not discovering. It's, you look under the right rock and boop, there it is, that all that information.
Thank you. Very fascinating. I'm realizing, my gosh, it's already 50 minutes, 50 we've come up, but we don't have a particular ending time. Michelle is very generous about, going as long as people want to go. But I do want to I have gotten a few questions. I want to invite people to put their questions in the chat, or if you know how to raise your hand with the technology here, I know there's a way to raise your hand at the bottom, or someone here like Lorelei, who's done a lot of Zoom, could tell people how to do that. But I do have a
Yeah.
couple questions, but I wanted to just ask first, your team, your guys, do they have a message for this group tonight that they might like to share
That's
before we ask
awesome.
specific questions?
Yeah. So just explain a little bit about how I work so that it's, you're like, what? Oh, what's very interesting is people who are sorcerers, they'll sometimes actually work with tarot cards because people get a little weirded out that someone's just talking or just looking into the air. There's nothing to focus on. So I don't choose to do that because, like I said, I look at a tarot card and it makes me start blinking. So I am simply just being me. I'm just kind of like a radio. So it's like I'm hearing music, but it happens to be words and it happens to be full conversation. I don't simply get like an image that I have to interpret. I actually have people talking to me and I am delivering the information. And the reason I know it's accurate is because I don't know it. They will say things that I have no idea. Like I work with a quantum physicist and she likes to work with like an Einstein or, whoever's on the other side. And I'm spouting formulas that I didn't even take physics. I have no idea what I'm saying. And she's like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, can you ask about papa? So that's how, for me, I had to finally recognize that I do actually have information that isn't coming from me, the personality. So that being said, what I like to do, as we've been hanging out today, what I call it, my crew or my posse, just my group, has been kind of mingling amidst all of you guys and, saying hi and just kind of getting a groove and a feel for everybody. Because everyone just wants the best for you all. So the sense is then now I can receive information that's particular for this group. And what they're saying would be particular for anybody who ends up watching this recording. Like, again, they're not stuck in just this time. So they already see and know and are saying hi to somebody, 3 weeks from now. So hi, 3 weeks from now. So that just to give you a sense of how it works for me. So
Thank you.
basically, and I don't need to go into like a trance state. It's just me talking. I mean, that's just how it developed for me. So they're like, Shah, let's talk. Okay. Yeah, I get that. So they're just thrilled. They're thrilled. They say this group particularly is active imaginations is what they're saying. Like everyone here is more open, more, my God, they're saying like feral. Like there's just this like hunger. It's like animalistic almost to understand more about yourselves and about the world and about the universe. And they're just thrilled. They're saying, especially in a time right now where it's easier to just shut down, they're just complimenting everyone for choosing to stay open and understanding and really commenting on how difficult that is these days. It's much easier to just go to bed, and just shut down and be like, I can't deal. And like there's days when that happens, but in general, this particular group is very they're just this very full of light. They're very they're showing me like balloons. Like everybody's like these balloons rising. It's all these beautiful colors, lots of blues and reds, and greens and a little yellow on the side. And they're just, it's like a celebration. They're celebrating all of you as a collective and also as individuals. You know, they're kind of pointing, they're kind of like, you know, if you can feel a little tap on your shoulder or a little tug on your ear, like that's your loved ones saying hello to you right now. Yeah.
Oh,
They're just thrilled. It's really sweet.
that's lovely. Lovely, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, crew.
Sure.
Thank you, crew. All right, I'm going to just toss out a question that one of the people here asked about, which was about the nature of time. And she said it feels like time is speeding up. Is that true? And if so, what does that mean? Is it part of the dream? She said she sees life as being like a dream. Is it connected to that? I guess like a matrix type thing. I mean, I've heard this too. What does your team have to say about time speeding up? Or is it just our perception of it, or what's going on?
So the way I understand it, there never was time. Time is a construct that was created for us in order to stay in a linear sense of life. Once you have stopped needing to be in a, I wake up, I do my job, I go to the end of my day, I go to sleep, and you start opening up a little bit more to what else is out there, you've already stretched time. Think about when you're having like the best time ever and it goes really fast versus you're like in a class and you're like, oh my God, get me through this. You're at the DMV and you're just like, it takes 17 hours and it's only been 2 minutes. That's you already stretching time. So that's always been the case. So it's just been a construct that we all went into a belief system around, that there was actually the same time for everyone. I mean, think about it right now. Even people on this phone may not all be in the same time zone. Like some people, it's, I'm in the future for some of you. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Right,
really
right.
interesting, if you actually sit and think through what is time actually, it's not really what we've grown up assuming, and it's an assumption. It's a holistic assumption because everybody else has been in agreement with it. But early on, when I was younger, I remember I wanted to sing a song and I had to leave, and I was like, ah. It's like, well, it's only okay, it's 4 minutes. A song is 4 minutes. I'm just going to sing it and I'm going to be 4 minutes late. So I looked at the clock and it was like 11:24, and I was like, all right, 11:20, I'll be out. So I finished my song and I looked at the clock and it is 11:24, and I was like, what?
Wow.
And I said, oh, okay, great. I asked for more time and I was handed it. So that's just how malleable time can be. Now, in terms of this feeling of time speeding up, that's real. That is because time has sort of snapped and we've been unhooking from it. Things are starting to speed by in a very accelerated rate. So you're not making that up. That's not something that's outside of, and everyone is sort of like, wait, we're halfway through the year already. Wasn't it just New Year's? I mean, it is absolutely speeding up in ways we've almost never experienced before, because all of the energies around the earth are shifting, in so many ways, and have been, particularly for the past, since 2012. That was the shift that started it all. Everyone thought that was going to be the end. No, that was the beginning of the end. So we're starting to see the shifts and the changes that the earth is going through, and one of them is reconstructing how time works.
Wonderful. I was going to ask you about that idea of bending time, because I read that you said that in one of your news. Michelle has a great Substack that comes to me. I guess you can have it come to you as a newsletter, right? If you sign up
Yeah,
on your website.
Michelle Cohen tune in on Substack. And if you go to, there's an audio version, and I actually talk about uh, experiences I've had of bending time. So
Oh, I didn't even hear that, but I know you signed off one of your things with saying something like, well, since I can bend time, and
right.
I have heard about that phenomenon. It's something we can all learn to do, I think,
Absolutely.
correct?
And the thing I will always say about anything, as long as you believe it's possible. If you truly can't wrap your brain around it and it just seems impossible to you, that will be true. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just there has to be at least a slight part of you that's like, oh, I wonder. Just being
Yeah.
curious, not saying, oh, it has to be true, but like, I wonder if it is possible.
Yeah.
That opens up the exploration for you.
Sometime I would love to learn a little more about how we learn to bend time. Maybe we'll have
Do another one.
a
Okay.
follow up at some point. But
Awesome.
time is flying so much tonight. I want to move on to some other questions. This also had a question from the same person actually about she has had some really, really, really difficult times in this lifetime, and she wants to know why does that happen? What is the point of that? Is there a point?
I too, I don't know too many people who've lived this long who don't have issues in one way, shape, or form. And I think it is very healthy, especially when you're in it, to say why and say this is not fair and what the hell and what's the point. Like I think those are real and earth human questions. So I would never say to someone, don't ask. It's of course no. That is real, and especially when you're in the midst of the hardship, it is totally legitimate to ask those questions. There are a lot of different reasons, shall we say, for things to happen to us, for us. There's the versions where they talk about, we made this agreement coming in that we wanted to have certain experiences. So I sometimes say, can I look at that contract? I'm not okay with this. So there's that belief system where we came in strangely wanting to have the hardship in order to learn from it. So that's one version. Another version is the ability to turn anything that's happening into a perspective and a gift, because the second it stops shattering you and the second it stops triggering you, that's when a lot of it starts to go away, because you have become a different human now and you no longer need that experience to teach you anything anymore. Now, that sometimes takes tons of layers. So I'm not saying it's just a quick, oh, I'm over it. I have had my share of just tremendous yuck. So I speak from complete awareness that I'm not just like, yeah, everything's fine. No, things are not always fine. And sometimes it just happens. I mean, I think we live long enough. There's no way you're going to live into decades and decades. I mean, some people, as soon as they're born, they come into trouble. So I don't think you can get away with, unless you are completely sheltered, and then what kind of life are you leading? You're always going to have issues and trials and tribulations. So the question really becomes, how can you be in it? Who can you be in it? And for me, always, my brother once said to me, when you're really a mess or in a really rough spot, what can I do for you? And I said, always check on my sense of humor. If I've lost my sense of humor, we know I'm in trouble. Because for me, I am able to shift out of things or shift my perspective, even if I'm in like crippling pain. If I can find something funny about it, that's like my latch onto humanity. It's like, okay, I can get through this one more day because that's just ridiculous. Like that's my version for me. It's different for everyone else. So I don't think there's one simple answer as to why we go through hardship or why some people have particularly awful, awful things and other people don't seem to. The other thing I would say is, don't assume that other people aren't having issues. You just can't see them, or they're not the kind of issues you think are issues, but to them they are. So no one gets out of here without them. It's just on different levels, and some are more overt than others.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that thing about the that you contracted for this, I think that I do believe that, but try telling that to somebody when they're suffering, chronic
I
illness or
don't think you
something.
should.
They don't want
No,
to hear it. And I don't
it's
blame
not
them.
fair.
I don't blame them.
It's not the time or space for it. That
Yeah.
time and space is for, how do we help you heal? How do you
Right.
feel better? And in
Right.
increments. Yeah, there's time and space for that. I mean, I'm working on a book right now, and we say very specifically, look, this is all a lot of really fun things to try. If you're in survival mode right now, please don't. Please do this when you're in a space where you can, where you have extra bandwidth, or you have the need and the joy from it. But if you're still in the how am I eating today, you're not going to be in the, oh, how can I talk to my Marilyn Monroe? Like, that's just not, it's not going to work that way.
Right. Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Somebody asked if your crew had any messages for people here, but I think this particular session is more about group questions, right? Non-personal questions. So I appreciate that question. Whoever put that in the chat, you know who you are. I'm not going to name names, but that would be something more for a personal session
Yeah.
with Michelle. I also want to say that Michelle did offer to do a reduced session with anyone that was here tonight. That's what I did the other night. I did a half-hour session at a special rate. It was wonderful, and you can ask all your personal questions. And boy, did I get some really good, concrete advice from it, that things to do with my business, growing my business, and other things that were also more personal and relationship things. But it was really, really helpful. So I give that a big thumbs up, and I was very appreciative of that. We have another question.
Actually, I'll just say, anyone who does want to do a session, just go to my website. It's Michelle with 2 L's, Michelle Cohen, Cohen, the number 1.com. And then just go to contact and just tell me that you were part of this group, so I know to give you your special rate, and I'll explain like what's possible.
Thank you. And another thing she says about her sessions, which we hadn't mentioned, but that they're like supercharged therapy. And I love that idea. We could talk about why you do that, how you do that. If we could really bend time a lot tonight. Maybe if you're kind enough to come back another time, because I,
Sure.
for one, was in therapy for about 20 years. And I won't say anything bad about it. It really helped me. But now looking back, I think about certain things I might not have done, and that focusing on things for so long maybe just, kept them going. I feel like I've learned.
I mean, here's the thing, therapy has its place. I would never say don't do therapy if that's something that helps you. The thing that I have an ability to do is get to the core of the issue. That may
Right.
take a lot of sessions before you get there, where I can just zone right in and we can unhook. There's a variety of different ways to work with it. And then you can take what you did and bring that back to therapy. But in terms of getting like really down to core stuff really quickly, that's
Yeah.
the beauty of this kind of work.
I love that. I love that idea. Okay, we have another question. It's from Stacy. I don't think she minds, our friend that introduced us.
Yay.
She wanted to know about the shift in 2012, and I know that some people are not that familiar with the idea that we are in the middle of a massive shift in consciousness right now on the planet that we have been hearing and has been prophesied and has been talked about by ancient cultures, and
Yeah.
now we're in it. So I'll turn that question over to you about 2012, Michelle.
Sure. So for any person who was alive and conscious back in that time, it's been a while already. It's crazy. There was kind of the same way like Y2K, like when the year 2000 was coming around and everyone's like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. There was sort of a similar feeling tone around that for 2012, because there had been particularly Mayan prophecies around literally the Mayan calendar ended in 2012. So there was like all this conjecture of what does that mean? What could it be? And so everyone was like, oh my gosh, 2012, thinking in the same way Y2K, some massive, huge thing is going to happen. It did, but the ripple effect of it is only starting to hit us now. The way I understand it, and I'm sure other people have different other aspects to it, is that we up until then have been living on an earth that's very three-dimensional. And when we look at three-dimensional, it's very polarized. There's good, there's bad, there's hate, there's love, there's evil, there's angel. And everything is looked at in a very basically two-dimensional, basically polarized. And there's a lot of sense of me versus you and us versus them feeling to it. The idea is that in 2012, that earth basically broke away and rose to a higher consciousness of what's called a 5D. And in a 5D earth, none of that exists. It's suddenly a much more communal sense of the world, communal sense of yourself and the world. You when people say, oh yeah, in heaven it must be boring because like there's no drama. There's actually a lot going on in heaven that's super fun and super interesting, but it's not dramatic and anxiety ridden. It's just a whole other level of a way to be on the planet that's full of love, that's full of curiosity, that's full of passion and compassion. And what started to happen in 2012 is some people got that message and started on their journey to discover what that's like. And other people still haven't gotten that message, which is why in the past couple of years, what you're seeing now is almost like we're on two different earths, because we kind of are. There's the people who have totally gotten the message and have been living in a much more just humane life. I don't know the right words to give it, but something that's much more aware of kindness and love and community, and those who are filled with fear and revenge and just all of the things that you do because you're insecure and fearful. So I feel like nowadays people literally feel like we have this particularly divides around politics, divides around cultures, where you're like, what world are you seeing? And what I would conjecture to say is we're actually not seeing the same world. Since I live so deeply in a 5D, I'm very lucky. I don't get attacked with a lot of the vicious, like once you hit a certain frequency, everything else drops away. It can't reach you. So anything that wants to, say snip, snip, how dare you be happy? I'm just like, bah, bah, bah. Like it just can't come near me. Now, if I'm tired or upset or mad or, starting to go into the deeper, more 3D types, sure, it gets a bit of a downer, but I don't fall into 3D anymore, because like the idea of something being good or bad, like that doesn't even make sense to my brain. It's like we're much more complex than that. Some things are wonderful, some things suck. The same thing can be wonderful and suck at the same time. Like it's just a much more interesting approach. So the way I understand it is everyone eventually will find their way into 5D, should they choose. If they prefer to be in the 3D and to be in the, you know, tightening the fists, that's totally okay. Zero judgment. That's just their evolution, and they can stay there as long as turns them on, basically. So
That's a great explanation. This is such a complicated topic. I have actually wanted to do a salon on the idea of the shift because I know a lot of people aren't even aware of it. And if even if you are aware, it sometimes you hear differing things. And just also, I want to say D generally is used to talk about dimensions. Some people say density. I don't really know the difference, but third density, third dimension, fifth. And I don't really quite understand why they don't talk about fourth that much. There seems to be
fourth,
sort of an
fourth is the
in-between
bridge.
state.
Yeah, fourth is the
Okay,
bridge. When you're like falling down, you're not feeling so great. You're kind of bridging back into three, and when you're like suddenly, oh, everything's going well. Stuff happens in four, but you don't tend to live in four. You're tending to live either in three or in five. And there's tons more. I mean, I've explored even higher dimensions than that. It's super
right,
fun once you start getting into the playland of. I mean, the way I put it, it's a frequency game. And
right.
you know frequency because you know when you're having a joyous moment, when you're feeling great, it's a high vibe. You're feeling good. And so if like icky news came to you in that moment, it wouldn't be as harsh as if you were in like the worst mood possible and then that icky news came in and you're just be like flattened out because you're already feeling terrible. So it's not like ick doesn't come to you. It's just where are you when it comes, so that you can get through it from a higher vibing place, or from a I can't get out of bed place.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very, very helpful. I appreciate that. So we will talk more about the shift at some point. I have another question now. And also, I just wanted to thank Lorelai. She put an explanation of how to raise your hand in the chat if anybody would want to do that. Thank you. Sorry that I can't type and talk. I'm really not good at doing several things at once, so I want to thank you. But I have a question from Lorraine who says, for Michelle, you said you live in New York City, and I'm wondering if you're ever compelled to stop someone on the street to give them an important message from spirit.
So here's the thing. I am always compelled. It is never my business. the thing we learn, and this is a really hard one to learn, once you start realizing that you can help a lot of people, it's not always your job to do it. You have to ask. I constantly have to ask when I walk by someone. It's like, oh, can I do it? No, not yours, not for you. It is very rare that I don't think I've ever approached someone. I actually don't think that that's a proper way of being on the planet. It is not our job. You don't know this person. You may think you do. A lot of people who are, I would put this with love, people who are in the high school version of this, in high school, you're like, I can save the world, and then when you're in your like 30s and 40s, you're like, yeah, I'd really like to help the world out. How can I help? There's just a gravity, an awareness that, you're here for certain reasons, not the whole big thing. So when you have somebody who's like, hi, I'm psychic and I'm going to just like tell you what's going on with you right now. Like I literally the other day, someone was like, oh my God, glasses really work for you. I'm like, okay, wow. We really need to just take a deep breath. I'm inviting you to talk to me about me, and it's just helping people recognize it's a really interesting, it's not a game. It's the way I take it very seriously because I want to stop by every single homeless person ever, which is every other street. When I was little and we would walk by somebody, I could not comprehend. I'm like, what are we doing? Someone flying on the street. Like I just couldn't, the little compassionate heart could not handle it. And to this day, I still have to stop. Nope, you're doing other things to take care of them. You're okay. Like it's really knowing what is yours to do, what is yours to help, who actually needs you, and also who asks. If someone doesn't ask for your help, it is not yours. And even when they ask, I double check because I know I'm going to change their lives. So usually I have them ask me 3 times. Can you help me? Are you sure? Well, yeah. Can you help me? Are you sure? And there's always a slight pause. And then it's like, yes. And because you can feel them calm down, like, yes, I actually really want this, instead of from the hysterical place. So it's nuance. It's not as simple as just go help people because you can. It's not.
We see a lot of on TV and stuff, mediums that go up to people and tell them that their dead relative is,
Yeah, I'm
wanting
not
to deliver a message.
I'm with deep respect. I am not a fan of that. I don't think it's that feels, I'll say it with love, egoic.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that's actually in the best interest of that person in that moment, especially if there's a camera involved.
Right. Yeah. Great. Thank you. I've got another question. Are our guides in relationship with our siblings' guides? That's a really interesting question.
I have never asked that before. I'm about to find, this is my favorite thing. I don't know. Let's find out.
See, here we are, ravenous for information, this group. It's true.
I love it. They're like, here's the thing. Obviously, you all grew up together. So there's an awareness of each other, but there's actually a respectful distance. That's so interesting. They're like, because you're really all on different paths. And even if you're in the same family, if, when you talk about that time when you were all sledding and everybody talks about a different version of it, because everybody has their, like, oh, mom was so mean in that day. It's like, really? I had a good time with her. It's just like everyone is on their own path. So it's not like they're not aware because, you're in the same room with people. But no, that's so interesting. I never thought of that question. They don't really interact. The other thing that's very interesting is, as far as I'm concerned, and it's true for me, I cannot read my parents. I can read my sister. My brother doesn't want me to read him, which is I totally respect. But my parents, it's actually painful. Like for some reason, those who birth you, that have that DNA, you actually cannot give them readings. It's interesting.
Very interesting. I was going to ask you earlier, was there ever anyone that you couldn't read? Did you ever get a client that you just could not read? And what do you think that's about? Because I've heard of that before.
Yeah, it's rare. I have gotten clients where their guides scream at me, "Don't read." That's weird.
Oh,
I'll be
wow.
like, "Hi,
Wow.
I'm actually being told that this is not a good idea." And they're like, "No, of course this." I'm like, "I'm going to give you your money back. I'm going to listen to the guidance. They don't want you to be heard." Um, not able to read. I had an experience where I was getting just maybes for someone. I'm like, this is weird. I always get specific. They're like, maybe, maybe, maybe. And I was like, I have to stop what's going on. And they're like, she's trying to read you at the same time. And I stopped. I said, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, well, I'm just checking in on you. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, waste of your time. Second of all, my crew has a big old shield up because that's not what this is about. And I'm not getting any reading for you because you're destroying the
Oh,
situation.
wow. Wow.
So I'd never had that before. It was wild. And she finally just like calmed down and stopped trying to read me. And then I was like, and I got the information for her. So that was weird. The
Interesting.
other thing I will say is once in a while, if they want to talk about something that's a particular trigger for me, or I'm finding it triggering, I will say, let's not do it because now I'm not a clean vessel. Because I have to be as pure and as unjudgmental and not a part of it as
Right.
possible. So if they're
Right.
talking about something that's actually upsetting to me, then I'm not going to be your best reader. So I will say, let's not, I'm not the good person for you for that.
Oh, that's good to know. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Never thought about that. And while we were talking about the siblings, Monica asked, "What about if there's twins? Does
Let me
that make
ask.
any difference in the guides? Would they have the same guide?" Or she wrote, "Could one twin be the guide of the other?" And I'm not sure if I'm understanding what she means by that, but is it?
Not if they're alive. If one has passed, yes.
Oh,
But
oh,
if they're both alive, no, they're not guides for each other. They're just pals or whatever they are as family. What they're showing that's so interesting is that they actually do coexist in the womb together. But once they are born, and they're like, and it's very particular who comes out first, then certain guides go out with that group, and then other guides come out with the one after or after, however many kids you're having. Oh, these are great. This is part of why I love doing this because I never would have thought to ask that question. So that's the answer for the
that
twins.
is interesting. I do have a friend who's a twin whose twin passed away at birth, shortly after birth, and she's been a little bit in touch with him through some
Yeah.
mediums and stuff. And it's interesting to think that maybe he is kind of a guide. I'm sure he is really a guide for her. Uh, Thank you. Anyone who has to leave, I know it's been a while. I say thank you so much for coming. A few people have jumped on here to say how wonderful it is. They're so sorry they have to leave right now, but you'll get the recording.
Mhm.
Thanks for being here. If you have to leave, just feel free. And Michelle, you tell me when it's getting to be the
Yeah,
witching hour.
let's do till 8:30, I think is
8:30.
the
That'd be
best.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Of
Thank
course.
you. Another question, why, this is sort of similar to what we asked before, but why is there so much suffering when we have all these guides wanting to help us?
So the guides are here because they know that we're working towards not being in a suffering world anymore, but we're not there yet. There was a lot there being on earth, being in human bodies on earth was an experiment. If you want to look at it from this perspective, and some of the experiment went awry, which caused a lot of pain in ways that was not the initial intention. And a lot of that is what's happening right now is a lot of that's getting shown. I always call it like we're looking up the skirts now. You're starting to see a lot of the stuff that was kept secret. And we're starting to open up to no more suffering. We're not okay with this. So things are in the midst of shifting, but we're not all in the high D as a whole group yet. But the possibility for it and the probability for it are so you know, spot on at this point that we are like the number one rated show in the universe these days. Like everybody's watching, everybody's fascinated to see how we figure this out, how we get through it, and also with deep compassion, how do we work with the suffering? Like there's just deep compassion, and part of the reason they're here is to try to help you when you're in the suffering, and also how to help you come out of the suffering. That's what guidance is there for.
Lovely, thank you.
Mm.
This again goes back to all this the stuff about the shift too. I really think that we need to do a whole
Yeah,
session on
yeah,
that because I think a lot of people are like, "What?
for sure.
What?" What do you mean things are getting better? And it's
Oh, I know.
what you said, all the
It's
shit is coming out from under the rug right now, and that's part of the frequency raising from what I hear.
the way I explain it, when you finally decide I'm going to clean out the attic, and now everything's out and there's dust and you're coughing and you're miserable because you forgot about that thing that you hated and you're a mess. However, very soon that's going to be taken to Goodwill. Everything's going to be tidy. You're going to paint, you're going to vacuum. And boy, there you are. We're in the middle of the dust. We're in the middle of the unpacking. But we're in the process of getting a beautiful attic.
Great. Love that. I'm going to squeeze in. We have a few more questions and we have a few more minutes. A question is, do you have medical intuition? Is that something that you offer?
So that is the one thing I don't think I am brilliant at. I can get kind of a feel for something, but if someone has medical questions, I would say go to someone who's truly a medical intuitive. I have had help from other people, so I can kind of get what's going on here, and I'll sometimes get sometimes I'll get a cure for something, but I'm not dependable on that. So I do say don't depend on me for that.
Would you have a recommendation of someone that you think is good if someone was looking for that?
I mean,
You
my
don't have to
person.
say it on
No,
Zoom
no,
here.
no. I know. I'm just saying my person passed who was,
Oh,
so I have yet to find like
oh,
my
that's too
new.
bad.
Yeah, I know. It's a very particular ability. There are people, just look at the testimonials, make sure that they're for real.
Right. There are. Yeah, I know a few myself, but I haven't really used them myself. I've got another question from Tammy. Are you finding more people coming to you for guidance because more and more people are waking up to their specific gifts and how they're supposed to use those gifts to shift humanity?
That's beautiful. I've always had people doing that. I'm having more people realize that they can.
Mm,
So, I've been lucky along the way to just be part of people's burgeoning and recognizing, since early, even while I was burgeoning and recognizing, we kind of did it together. I think what's different now is there's more of an acceptance to it. Like I was very hidden and very secret. Nobody knew what I did. My shingle was not this. My shingle was entertainment. So no, you only found out about me because somebody was suddenly having a really good life and they're like, how'd that happen? They're like, go talk to Shell. So I kept it very private. So I think what's beautiful these days is I can talk about it anywhere, anytime, no problem. And other people understand what's possibly happening to them in a way that we didn't even just 10 years ago. So there's just a lot more ways to wake up. And so, yeah, people, and I happen to have a lot of decades on this, which most people don't. So I could be much more facile in helping people know exactly what they need or where to go. It's not versus when I was first starting, it would take me like 5 hours to figure something out. I didn't know what I was doing yet. So,
sure, sure, sure. Thank you. I have a question from Deke. Could you tell us about your intuition toolkit?
yeah. So that's one of the books I had. It's on Amazon, and it's sort of a loving look at stuff we're talking about, like how to recognize what's happening to you, how to check in, how to deal with your fears and deal with your questions. And it's not a like, this is how you do it. It's more of a, this is what could be happening to you. And here's all the bajillions of different things that could be what's happening to you. So it's, like the things we've talked about today, the witch, the wizard, and the sorcerer, like that's in there, or your yes and your no's, like that's a whole chapter. So a lot of things we've talked about here are actually in the book itself. And you can explore in whatever way you want to discover just what's possibly going on and what are ways to check in, to start checking into yourself and see how it might be for you.
Great.
I'm having another book coming out in about 2 months. Working title of the moment is Tune In for More, Stop Ghosting Your Intuition.
I
That
like
one is very much about how we actually all are being intuitive. Like you walk into that room and doesn't have a good vibe and you leave. That's intuition. You think of somebody and they suddenly call you. that's intuition. So this is a book of more really getting specific about, look, this is happening. This is how to work with it. And it's a really fun that'll be coming out. We're finishing it up right now. That'll be coming out in a few months.
Oh,
Yay.
that's great. Is that connected to the TuneIn
Yes.
podcast
Yes.
that
Yeah.
you're doing?
So the other thing that's coming out is I've written a narrative podcast. It's a comedy, fun intuition podcast. It's called Tune In, and the premise is Sex in the City if Carrie suddenly woke up psychic.
Yes, I love that.
And it's my way. I mean, I think we all learn from fun, and we learn, so I basically surreptitiously put all the things I've learned into these really fun characters, and the main character is not having it. She does not want to be hearing a voice in her head. She's busy. So it's a fun way to start hearing and seeing what's possible. And we're in the middle of recording. That'll be coming out sometime in the fall as well. So yes, the book is a companion to the show. So if you want to go to tuneinshow.com, you can sign up to get more info on that, and you can hear the trailer.
I was going to just say, yeah, you can get on the list to get news updates right on that, which I have. I'm really curious to see that. We have about 2.5 minutes left. I want to ask a question myself.
Okay.
Thank you all for your questions.
Yes,
because we are a very creative, there are a lot of creative people we have singers, we have writers, we have many among the audience here. And as a creative, how does your intuitive ability, does it help you with your creativity, with your projects? Do you really call upon that, or even your team when you're writing?
I mean, I think honestly, anyone who's creative is channeling
Channeling.
I mean, we are muses. If you go back to Michelangelo or Da Vinci, they were automatically saying, God's working through me, or the clay is just coming out. So I think we automatically are intuitively connecting to ideas, to concepts, and then it's filtering through us and our particular abilities so that it comes out. And I always think it's a combination of the universe's ideas and Michelle's personal experience, so that it comes out. Like, no one else is going to come up with Tune In. Like, that is so specifically me and specifically my life and my experiences. But I would love to see other people doing things around people waking up and it being a funny show. So in terms of me particularly, because I have a facility, I absolutely I was working on a movie about Mary Pickford, and I'll talk to Mary Pickford. I talked to Charlie Chaplin.
Wow.
I mean, I actually had a conversation with Charlie about, there was a scene between Mary and Charlie, and he said, "You're not understanding." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're thinking we hated each other." It's like, we didn't hate each other. We just didn't understand each other. And I was like, oh, and I rewrote the scene. And he was right. I could see it. They absolutely loved each other, but he couldn't deal with how smart she was, and she couldn't deal with how slow he was. So, that's different than love or hate. So, yeah, I definitely get a front row seat for help. It's really cool.
That is so cool. That's having a little envy, a little writer envy.
I think, again, we all have I can help people learn how to tap into it.
I do believe that.
They're all there for your help. Just call them in as you're writing. You'd be like, even like, I want to feel what it felt like to be Marilyn Monroe, and just like ask her to just like show you the wiggle, just whatever's fun for you, like make it a fun and always with permission. I mean, I always say, ask the soul's permission, but totally play that. Everyone's here for your playtime.
Well, that's wonderful. That is a great note to end on. If there's anything you want to share to everyone before you go, I invite you to do that. Your website, you have told us.
Right. So website is michellecohen1.com, and that you can contact me and I'll give you more information about me. Totally come play with me on my Substack. It's Michelle Cohen Tune In. And every Monday, no matter what, and you don't have to pay for it, I've been doing for 12 years. It's a tune in newsletter to just give you a joyous kick for your start of your week. So that everybody gets. Then if you want other things, you can pay for that, but you always get the newsletter. So that's super
great.
fun.
I have to say, I don't always enjoy people's newsletters. I really enjoy Michelle's newsletter.
Yeah, and I love doing it. I mean, I'm a writer, so it's fun to be writing. And then, like we said, tuneinshow.com, and somewhere once the book's ready to be seen, we'll have the book out as well. So yeah,
When I send the recording out, I can also put some of these
perfect.
this information because I know it's hard sometimes to hear it and remember it. Thank you a million times. Thank you, Michelle.
You
Thank
for
you
making
all.
it
Thank you
happen.
the crews, all of our crews for
Yeah, they're all
being
waving.
here. I appreciate everyone really so much for supporting this project, and I hope that we'll be doing more. I'll keep you posted. I hope you're all on my mailing list. If you're not, you can go to annewgarden.com, sign up so that you can get advised of other soul salons and other news. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
signing
you,
off.
everybody.
Lots of
Bye
Thank
love.
you.
Bye bye.
bye.